Giri Varada Jaya Sava Jaya Hari Jaya Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakur ki jai. Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giraj Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan ki jai. Dham Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Yamunamayi ki jai. Gangamayi ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktavrinda ki jai. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 3, entitled Pure Devotional Service, text 18.
Taraha Kim Na Jivati Vaskaha Kim Na श्वसति उत न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति किं ग्रामे पशवः अपरे सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति किं ग्रामे पशवो परे सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति किं ग्रामे पशवो परे सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
वस्त्रः किं न श्वसन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
न खादन्ति न मेहन्ति
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
किं ग्रामे पशवो परे सर्वं किं न जीवन्ति
किं श्वसन्ति
वस्त्रा किं न श्वसन्ति खादन्ति न मेहन्ति किं ग्रामे पशवो परे
Are there any devotees online that would like to chant? Taravaha, the trees. Him, weather. Na, do not. Jivanti, live. Vaschaha, bellows. Kim, weather. Na, do not. Shvasanti, breathe. Uta, also. Na, do not. Khadanti, eat. Na, do not. Mehanti, discharge semen. Kim, weather. Rame, in the locality. Pashabaha, beastly living being. Apare, others. Translation. Do the trees not live? Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breathe? All around us, do the beasts not eat and discharge semen? Purport. The materialistic man of the modern age will argue that life or part of it is never meant for discussion of theosophical or theological arguments. Life is meant for the maximum duration of existence, for eating, drinking, sexual intercourse, and making merry and enjoying life. The modern man wants to live forever by the advancement of material science, and there are many foolish theories for prolonging life to the maximum duration. But the Srimad Bhagavatam affirms that life is not meant for so-called economic development or advancement of materialistic science, for the hedonistic philosophy of eating, mating, drinking, and merrymaking. Life is solely meant for tapasya, or purifying existence so that one may enter into eternal life just after the end of the human form of life. The materialists want to prolong life as much as possible because they have no information of the next life. They want to get the maximum comforts in this present life because they think conclusively that there is no life after death. This ignorance about the eternity of the living being and the change of covering in the material world has played havoc in the structure of modern human society. Consequently, there are many problems multiplied by various plans of modernized man. The plans for solving the problems of society have only aggravated the troubles. Even if it is possible to prolong life more than one trees not live? Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breathe? All around us, do the beasts not eat and discharge semen? So, Bhagavatam is highlighting the condition in the material world that time is ticking, and we're wasting it away if we're not engaged in discussing the topics of the all good Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's life in us, or we are alive, and we are breathing, we are living, we are eating and discharging semen, but there is something more to life than this. And those that have the human form of life are meant to use that for hearing and discussing Krishna Katha. So one may say that, well, the devotees are eating very nicely, and they're also mating, and they're also drinking and merrymaking, but we're eating and drinking only foods which have been offered to Krishna, and that's a big tapasya. So one who's doing so, one who's only eating Krishna prasadam and endeavoring to only eat the remnants of the food offered to the deity, that's very nice, and one can be protected from all types of sinful contamination simply by that one stroke. Additionally, the merrymaking that the devotees are doing is all to give the Lord pleasure. And undoubtedly, all types of cultured persons are interested in singing, dancing, philosophy, nice festivals, decorations, these types of things. But we put Krishna in the center, and all those same activities of merrymaking, they, instead of binding us to the material world, they're freeing us from all sinful contamination, and we're actually engaging in our real identity rather than living out a bad dream. So this is the tapasya that's required for this age. The tapasya that's required for the age of Kali Yuga is the Sankirtan Yajna. We have to glorify the Lord congregationally. We do that through reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the most expert guide for this purpose. And we also do that through chanting the Lord's holy names. Then all of our activities are connected and supporting those activities, and therefore they all become Sankirtan Yajna. But it is important that we do learn the science of how to connect ourselves with that glorification process of the Lord. So there's a verse which is often quoted in relation to the difference between humans and animals. And that can be found in the 5th canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me see if I can remember. I'm not remembering exactly the Sanskrit, but the verse is stated by Rishabhadev to his sons, and he's saying that you shouldn't spend this human life in the same manner that the dogs and hogs are doing so. They're working quite hard to get some sense pleasure, and the humans they shouldn't do the same type of activities. Shouldn't work so hard for that same type of pleasure. And it's stated there that we're meant to engage in tapo divyam. So these are some divine austerities. And we know what austerities are worth performing when we've been instructed to do so by the spiritual master. One can say, well, I'd like to do my own process. I got my own program and I do things. And that's very nice if it's harmonizing with the blessings and instructions from the Guru Parampara. And one thing that somebody told me when I was at a devotee festival, I asked this question to him, and he mentioned that if you weren't told to do it, then how can it actually be tapasya? So we have so many ideas of what to do and how to do things, and we may consider them in that austerity. But because we're not free from the modes of material nature, then those things may be contaminated with the desire to enjoy. So it is really important that we do receive our instructions and we get our tapasya package hand delivered from the spiritual master. And it's nice to do that, because then there's no question in our mind. You say, well, I think I should do this instead, but I've been asked to do this one. And I really think I'll make more advancement if I do this, but my spiritual master and the devotees, they've asked me to operate in this way. And actually it's more troublesome actually to follow the instructions. And we can see that purification is there. So these are some points. There is life after death. And when we are ignorant to this fact, when we don't understand the very basics of the Bhagavad Gita philosophy, which Krishna very clearly explains eternality of the soul and the transmigration of the soul, right? Then this changing of the coverings of the soul, then we start trying to solve all types of problems, but we just make more problems. And there's an example that what is this trying to solve problems? This trying to solve problems is trying to get to a more comfortable position, or in other words, trying to enjoy through the channels of the senses, this material world. So that type of plan making that is that is executed by the lusty intelligence. And that type of plan making, or that type of executing on those types of plans to solve these material problems, it's like the rubbing of an itch. And at a certain point, that itch may be temporarily satisfied, but it just gets to the point where we're suffering, bleeding. We may have some different experience of that we may scratch, or we may pick, or we may rub or whatever to relieve ourselves of some discomfort, but it ends up becoming more aggravated as we pick and scratch. So this is the problem. When we don't have spiritual knowledge, then we start trying to solve problems, and those solutions make more problems. And so there's a phrase, Dvi Pada Pashu, or Dvi Pada Pashu. Not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but this is a two-legged or 2 feet animals. And so this society where there's no spiritual knowledge being propagated and cultivated and acted upon, that type of a society is just polished animals. And in one sense, that polish is actually even more abominable, because the human beings are able to transgress the laws of nature because they have more access to their minute free will. Their consciousness is less covered. They can act, they can misuse their free will, whereas those souls who are embodied in the lower species of life, they're not allowed to, they're not able to. It's not possible. So it's very interesting. So we should use this human form of life in a way that's distinct from the animals. We can perform dharma. And ultimately, we know the paro dharma is to render unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And while living in this world, we do all of our duties for the sake of Sangsiddhir Haritoshanam. We are wanting to perform these duties for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And ultimately, how do we do that best? How do we move in that direction? Is we just submissively hear the transcendental message from the realized devotees of Krishna. That is the fearless method. And we can do that from any position. And so we should take full advantage of Srila Prabhupada's books and this ISKCON movement to make our lives perfect and engage in the real occupation of the soul. Thank you very much. Jagannath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I'm just wondering, how can we get into some of these good habits that seem to be evading us, I mean, especially this habit of taking the spiritual master's instructions seriously. How can we get into that good habit? That's it.
Thank you. So, because we have short memories and we're very much disturbed in all types of ways in this Kali Yuga, then and our intelligence isn't so so strong, not so strong. So for that reason, Srila Vyasadeva, he actually compiled the Vedic knowledge. The Vedic knowledge is just immense knowledge. It's not you can't contain it necessarily, but little bits and pieces, which of course in the Vedic text is a vast amount, were put into writing. That's so we can review again and again. So we just continue reminding ourselves, and that's why we do the program in the morning, because we chant to the spiritual master, we glorify him. When you pray to the spiritual master or a great personality, we learn from the acharyas that you glorify their qualities and their activities. and then you offer respects and take blessings. So similarly, we many dozens and dozens of times a day, we're offering our humble obeisances to our Diksha Guru, as well as to our preeminent Shiksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada. And when we do that, that's an opportunity. We're already kind of getting that opportunity to build that habit. We're already building it. It's working. And that habit is not outside of devotional service. It's not artificial because we've been asked by the spiritual master to work on that. So all the good habits come naturally from devotional service, but Prabhupada is so nice. He's coming in the parampara. He's delivering us this process. And so many dozens of times a day, we're bowing down to the floor. And when we do that, we can take that moment to really recommit ourselves. I want to follow your instructions. I want to be a sincere, submissive disciple. So again and again, we have that opportunity to recommit ourselves again and again and again. And we also hear the philosophy of why. Because Srila Prabhupada, we hear in the Guru Vandana prayers, right? The translation, so amazing. And we say it every day. And there's a chance for us to kind of consciously vibrate those words. You know, when we're saying the prayer, but we can consciously, we can be present and attentive in that, and with that vibration or with that transcendental sound, we can connect with the mercy of the previous acharyas, and by their grace, we can become submissive. So it's in one sense, actually, the acharyas, Rupa Goswami mentions that the connection with the spiritual master, finding a spiritual master and taking initiation and serving him submissively and hearing from him as one of the major aspects of that service. Those are the most important factors in our devotional process from the practicing stage. So it's good that you're honed in on that, because that's from improvement in that area, we can make a lot of advancement. Actually, our advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. And in another place, Srila Prabhupada describes that the attitude of the disciple should be to satisfy the spiritual master. So that's our attitude. If our attitude is to please the spiritual master, that's how we'll make advancement. Thank you for a nice question, Prabhu. And we see the animals, they don't have spiritual master. So at least if we're thinking about it or we're acting on it, we're moving in that direction, we're doing nicely, and we're on our way to perfecting this human form of life. Any other points, devotees? Yes, Jagannatha Prabhu.
So my next question would be, what is the catalyst for this attitude? Is it just reading scripture, or is it following the morning program? Because I have trouble with the morning program. I have a lot of trouble with the morning program. But I do get at least an hour of reading in, but I don't know whether I just don't know what the catalyst is for this attitude, and I wish I knew. So could you please help me? Thank you. That's it.
Well, in short, the major catalyst in our devotional life and progress in devotional service is the association of the pure devotee. So he's the whole reason why we're here, And Srila Prabhupada is that person for us that can bring us up. He's constantly pulling us up, moving us up. And so by following his instructions, that's associating with him. Reading his books, that's associating. So there's a whole package. We need balance in our life, in our devotional life. So we need to be moderate. That's mentioned by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Yukta. We try to moderate and regulate in different categories. And we just continue hearing from the spiritual master, and we continue associating with the pure devotee. And when they see it fit, they may give us a breakthrough. They may give us some special mercy, and the things that used to be difficult in devotional service may become easier. And until that day, we just patiently wait for the mercy, and we execute the best of our ability. So continue on. And hearing is that main tool to receive the mercy. So what has been emphasized by Srila Prabhupada, if we emphasize that for ourselves, if we take that as our emphasis in devotional service, then that is that's a good technique to be a worthy recipient, or rather not worthy because the mercies cause us, but to be a likely recipient of the mercy is to harmonize with the priorities that were set by the previous acharyas. So you're thinking about morning program? Good. You're thinking about reading? Good. So continue to focus on those, those points which Prabhupada has stressed to us. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you all devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.